holidays. Wanted to read you guys a nativity story while football plays in the background and before my rowdy nephews show up. Before there was anybody, there was just a body floating on the sea. This body was a seed at first, but then it grew and grew until the body began to sink. The body reached for something to cease its sinking, but its hands found nothing firm to hold fast to. Its feet, however, they touched down on the muddy floor, and so the body stood. The body was only tall enough to barely kiss the air, and so it took a tremendous breath, and then relaxed, and slept, the crown of its head becoming an island above the rowdy sea. And then there was somebody standing on the island. Somebody looked up and watched the sun move across the sky, and then looked down and watched many things appear upon his island. The growing thing, the creeping thing, and those that chirped and perched in the boughs of the tree that stood in the center of it all. When the sun had left the sky, all the growing things withdrew their petals, and all the creeping and chirping things shut their eyes, and somebody moved listlessly among them until he sat down against his central tree and closed his eyes, and then it was that he turned into someone else. Someone else stood and walked to the shore of somebody's island, and there he heard a voice. Hearing this voice, he responded to it, and so it was that someone else and the sea conversed all throughout the night until the light of dawn broke across the eastern sky. When the sun appeared, someone else was again somebody, and stood from where he leaned against his central tree. And then he began to explore his island until he knew the whole of it. This exploring and this knowing did not happen all at once, but instead took quite some time. And when each day was done, somebody returned to the center, and there he sat and closed his eyes and turned into someone else, who returned to the edge of the island to converse with the voice that came to him from all of the surrounding waves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One night, somebody opened his eyes to find that he had not become someone else. Then he heard a voice that was not the voice that came from the waving sea. Somebody looked down to see his tree now growing from his heart. And then he saw beside him a little body who cried out, "Hello, Abba, it is me." Somebody knew exactly who she was, and so reached up and plucked a fruit from the tree that grew from out his heart. He handed this fruit to the little body, who thanked him and then was gone. Not long after, somebody found that he now knew all the whole of his island, all that grew from it and crept through it and flew from this branch onto that. Somebody's satisfaction at knowing all this did not last long, and soon it was replaced with a feeling of incompletion. This feeling gnawed at him until he decided to do something about it, and so he reached into the ground and withdrew mud, and reached to the plants for stalk and flower, and reached to the beasts for blood and heat, and then reached into his own body for breath. Then from all of these, he assembled another body. Somebody named the other body, and the other body woke at once. Somebody toured the other body all about his island, teaching it of this thing and of that thing and of that. Once somebody saw that the other body comprehended all of this, he allowed the other body to behold his central tree. For a moment, somebody felt that his life was about to achieve completion, for the other body knelt before the central tree and seemed about to make obeisance before it. Yet then the other body began to maul at the dirt at the base of the tree, and then began to slurp at the secret waters hidden there. Somebody then felt a great shame, for the other body knew nothing of completion, having been created from somebody's own want. Thus somebody revoked the name he had given the other body, and then banished it from his island, decreeing that it would never return. Then somebody was alone, and his wish for completion did not diminish, keeping him awake. After 7 nights of listless roaming, somebody overheard a voice, lapping upon the shores of his island. Somebody then named this voice Laiath, the lapping body, and naming the voice allowed somebody to converse with her. They spoke. She, I have never known you to be so thirsty. He, how is it that you know me, but I do not know you? She, you know me well, for I was the one who caught you when you were just a seed, and I was the one who held you as you grew into a body, and I am the one who sends the rains that grow all you are given to know, and I am the one who sets down the sun that you may rest from all your growth and knowing. He, and might you be the one who is the answer to my wish? She, you have named me, and thus we speak. Now touch me, and we shall see. And so somebody touched the sea, and pulled her onto his island. At once she appeared to be the pinnacle of all that he had wished, and the further into his island he led her, the more complete he felt to be. And then somebody led her to his central tree, and she saw at once the spring beneath it. How, spoke she, you have a water of your own. I would to taste of this. Listen, I have nurtured you. Now nourish me. And somebody consented that she taste of his secret waters. And soon his hope turned to fear, for the lapping body became at once filled with knowing and sought to dominate him. And thus they wrestled, and she was not stronger than him, not upon his island. He cast her from there, and then to protect himself from her, he moved his island inland, and never again spoke to her while he was awake. His island was now a garden, and all about it was the wilderness. Somebody, for a moment, thought that venturing into the wilderness might lead him to completion, but something in him told him this would not be so, and so he sat at the base of his tree and asked that he be given rest from his wish to feel completion. There he sat for a time that sometimes is short and sometimes is long, a time that at times seems to have no end, and a time that at times seems without beginning either. But however it happens now or then, it happened then that somebody was taken up by the eyes above him, and he was altered and then returned. Then around the tree was wrapped a vine, and beside the man lay woman. Her eyes were opened before his, and she saw him and touched his body, and his body stirred, and he awoke, and then they knew themselves as selves, through whom into the world would be given everybody. Happy Yuletide.